Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm excited to show you around the technology inside of the all-new 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe as far as the infotainment as well as the digital gauge cluster, and we may also even dive into the HVAC touch type climate controls which Hyundai has started rolling out in some of their all-new or refreshed models. So stay tuned, there's a lot of information here in this video, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now the vehicle I'm currently sitting in is a 2024 Santa Fe SEL, which is relevant to the technology inside of this vehicle because some of the higher trims, including the XRT Limited and Calligraphy, do get the built-in navigation, so that changes some of the menu items and stuff as far as that goes when it comes to the head unit. Now the SEL receives the lesser of the digital gauge cluster, so this is still a fully digital in design, but is not the nicer fully digital 12.3-inch display that you will find in some of those upper trim levels. The SEL does, however, get the forward attention warning, which is essentially a face or eye tracker, which will monitor whether or not you're paying attention out on the roadway when using some of the safety systems inside this vehicle. But the SEL does at least get the touch type HVAC controls for your heated seats, some of the other airflow controls, which we will touch on very quickly sometime in this video. And it does receive the digital keypad here with the wireless charger on the left side. But of course, as we know, if you do get the calligraphy, you will get the dual wireless chargers in both of these positions right here. So just want to put that out there. This is the SEL trim level, which should be a very popular, very volume trim level for Hyundai. But I will maybe create a second video on a higher trim level, such as a limited or calligraphy, if you guys are interested in that and do want to see it here on the channel, going through some of the main items here as far as the infotainment and digital gauge cluster, because there are several differences as far as that goes, because essentially they do have more features and options. And quickly, I do want to mention that this video should be relevant to the SC and SEL trim levels of the all-new Santa Fe, although many of these items will apply to the higher trims as well as other Hyundai models across the lineup that do pertain to this new ccNC infotainment system, specifically without navigation, such as the refreshed Sonata, of course the Kona trim levels and everything like that. So many of these items will apply to either other Hyundai models or across the Santa Fe lineup, but do note that there are going to be some small differences depending on which trim level you do choose. Okay, so starting out with the tour of the digital gauge cluster. Once again, this is a fully digital design, but it has a small 4.2-inch color display in the center that is controlled on the left side of the steering wheel. The speedometer and tachometer on the left and right respectively are fixed in place and cannot be changed, except for they do have color changing LEDs that will change the background color of the speedometer and tachometer rings, but unfortunately cannot be programmed or changed in any fashion outside of that. So taking a look, you do have your speedometer and tachometer like I mentioned. Fuel level is going to be in the bottom left with your coolant temperature in the bottom right over there. As far as the main home screen in the 4.2-inch display, you have your gear selection, estimated fuel range, current speed limit for the road you're traveling on, exterior ambient temperature, and odometer in the bottom right. There's your engine stop-start indicator that can be turned off in the center console just below the HVAC controls and will disappear when it is off and will show up with a little A icon when it is turned on. There's your lane keeping assist systems as well as your safety systems in the middle. By holding down the OK on the left side of the steering wheel, that will bring up the selection in the main infotainment screen to change some of these settings as far as that goes. Now using the button on the left side of the steering wheel to toggle through some of the main icons, you do have your tire pressure, which are individual readouts, as well as your all-wheel drive if it is equipped, which will show where the power is being distributed to as far as all four wheels of the vehicle. Pressing it one more time brings up your trip information, your average MPG. Of course, you do have a couple different trip settings, which you can cycle through right there. There's your auto stop. And then going back to the main trip information. And then pressing it one more time will bring you back to the main safety system. So that is basically the digital gauge cluster in this particular vehicle in a nutshell. Once again, pertains to the SC and SEL trim levels of the Santa Fe, as some of the higher trims do receive the nicer full 12.3-inch display, which can be configured just a little bit further than this one. But overall, very easy to read. One small complaint I do have about the digital gauge cluster as far as this layout design goes is some of the contrast can be a little bit hard to read depending on the lighting and the glare that is coming inside the vehicle. The white contrast is pretty good against the background, but some of these other menu items could be a little bit brighter in my opinion. And this is actually solved by getting the nicer 12.3-inch full digital display inside these vehicles, as it has a better contrast. But overall, not a bad digital cluster, just a little bit more on the basic side. Now coming over here to the main infotainment system, like I mentioned, this is the 12.3-inch ccNC Lite version, which essentially is the non-built-in navigation version. It still supports wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, Sirius XM, AM, FM, USB, Bluetooth inputs. All that stuff is still found on the Lite version. Essentially, Lite just means it does not have built-in navigation. Now this is going to be your main homepage, if you will, on this new navigation system. It has your time and date up in the top in the center as well as in the right-hand portion. You have your Sirius XM tile over here on the left side, phone projection, valet mode, vehicle diagnostics, and then swiping to the right, you have maintenance, notification, online manual, as well as your setup tiles. Now these can all be configured and rearranged to your personal preference by simply holding down, pressing down for a few seconds, and dragging and dropping just like that of your Android or Apple smartphone. Now up in the left-hand corner, you do have your little guest icon, which is your current profile being used inside the vehicle. If you go ahead and press that, it will allow you to open your profile settings or quick access the online user manual for the vehicle. So if we simply do that, brings up the user profile, and you can log into your other profiles if your vehicle is activated with BlueLink, and essentially have other profiles loaded onto the vehicle as seen right here. You have 1, 2, and then your guest icon right there. So we'll go back into guest. Now one more item you can see here from the home page, if you've seen some of the little bar at the top, is it does have a quick access menu which you can pull down from the top of the screen on any page you're currently on, and that gives you access to some of the quick controls as far as the illumination. Turning the display off, simply press it there, touch it, turns it back on, and then you have split screen functionality, your quiet mode, which essentially mutes or dims the audio in the rear speakers. And then pressing the little icon up in the corner there will give you more access to different things by simply checking these boxes, pressing done, and now those will all show up on the main pull down tab every time you do access that quick setting menu right there. So pretty cool that Hyundai allows this to be accessed in such a quick fashion. It's totally different than something that they've ever offered before, but I really do like it given the fact that it gives you quick access. You know, mute the beep if you want for every time you press the infotainment screen, or turn it on and off quick access settings such as that. So that's pretty much the main screen in a nutshell. Now let's go ahead and dive through each of these main tiles, including the setup, which includes many of the main system settings inside these vehicles, and show you kind of how everything works. So we'll go ahead and press on the Sirius XM title. This brings up your audio multimedia, which can also be pressed down here in the main shortcut buttons, including the home, map, media, stuff like that, which I will touch on here in a second. But going back to the audio, here's your main audio streams on the left-hand side. You have FM, AM, FM, and XM as far as your main, I guess, audio radio modes. Of course, it does support USB, Bluetooth, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay as well. And if you go ahead and press that at the bottom, that is where you'll access some of those other ones, including the Bluetooth, USB music, and then if you do have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay connected to this, it will show up over here under that as well. So that's going to be basically all of the main audio systems. We'll go back into sound settings. Can be accessed from down there at the bottom, which is in your main setup screen, which we'll touch on here in a little bit. Now going over to phone, that basically brings up the Bluetooth audio if you do not have a phone currently paired. Now if you do have a Bluetooth audio currently paired, then that will bring up all of your call history, some of your recent call messages, everything like that. And hopefully I do have a clip of that from the Kona, which I'll go insert now. But if I don't, that essentially is where you'll access all of your Bluetooth phone settings and your current call history, dialer pad, everything like that. Now similarly, phone projection brings up the wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and is where you will add your smartphone to the system if you do want to pair a new Apple or Android device and use it wirelessly via that screen. So if you do have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay hooked up, it will basically have a tile for whichever device you have currently paired. Click on that, it brings up the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay in a totally separate screen. And of course, we are used to that by now, where you can navigate all of your streaming services as far as your music goes. You have Google Maps integration, all of your third-party apps, which are Android Auto or Apple CarPlay compatible, will show up in that version right there. Now moving on, we have valet mode, which essentially you have to have a BlueLink account active for that, but will allow you to lock certain features of this vehicle using a passcode. Say you want the speed of the vehicle limited, or you wanted certain menu items limited as far as the infotainment system goes, it will allow you to do that. Lock it behind a passcode, so anybody that is driving your vehicle for valet or other reasons cannot have access to certain sensitive items such as that. Now, vehicle diagnostics essentially checks a few of the main system diagnostics inside the vehicle and will tell you if there is anything faulty as far as mechanical drivetrain components or other interior features as far as that goes. Moving over to maintenance, this again needs an active BlueLink subscription, but will allow you to check the current maintenance. As far as the time frame or mileage, which you have the oil change set to, you can change it between certain parameters, whichever you think is a better fit for your needs. Notification brings up the active notifications that you currently have within the vehicle for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, or other system notifications for the built-in navigation. Anything like that will show up in that tile right there. You have your online manual, which essentially brings up the manual for the vehicle. So if you need to search how to use a certain feature inside of your new Santa Fe or other Hyundai model, you can do that right there by simply scanning that QR code with your smartphone. Of course, do that in a safe environment. And then finally, we do have the setup pages, which is your main system settings for not only the infotainment, but you have the BlueLink in here, the digital gauge cluster, etc. And this will be the bulk of what I want to discuss here in this video. So under the setup screen here, we have many different items you can control and set up to your personal preference inside of your vehicle. So I'll go ahead and just go in order here. But again, if you do want to reorder these, you can do that just like the home page, drag and drop them, and it works very similar to that of a current smartphone. So starting out with vehicle up in the left-hand corner, we have driver assistance, drive mode, climate, lights, door, digital keys, and convenience features. Now, depending on the trim of the vehicle you have, there will be additional settings which you can tweak inside of this. For example, I know the XRT Santa Fe has a dedicated tow haul mode button to the left of the steering wheel that can be programmed here in the infotainment system under one of these menu items. But starting out with the driver assistance, if you press on that, you'll see all of the main tiles that you see on this screen will automatically populate here on the left-hand side via the scroll tab right there. So basically, instead of going through all of these on this screen, you can simply press on the first one and access all of these main items down the left-hand side. So starting out with driver assistance, this pertains to a lot of the smart cruise control and other safety and convenience features inside the vehicle. You can see you can adjust the smart cruise control properties for the distance, acceleration, and reaction speed all right here, or reset them to system defaults at the bottom. Driving safety, this pertains to the some of the forward collision avoidance and alerts. So you can do standard or late warning, lane safety, blind spot detection, as well as the safe exit warning. Around the outside of the vehicle, you have the driver attention warning, which gives you the leading vehicle departure alert, as well as the forward attention warning alert. There's your speed limit assist, so you can essentially select the country you're currently traveling in, which is US and Canada, which is pretty cool, and it will detect the sign that you're currently traveling on, either via the camera systems or the built-in navigation if your vehicle is equipped with that. And it looks like you can change some of the assists that will show up on the screen and the gauge cluster depending on which you would want. And then there is your speed limit offset. You can essentially choose up to 10 mile an hour of an offset, so plus or minus the current speed limit on the road. The system will alert you when you are using the smart cruise control or other system features. And then finally, we have our parking safety. You can change the camera display settings over here, including the contrast, brightness. There's the parking lines you can turn on and off. And then there's the extended rear view monitor. And then there's your rear cross traffic alert, which you can turn on and off down there at the very bottom as well. So this is all the features of this particular Santa Fe, but you can pull up some of the highway drive assist and stuff like that if your vehicle is equipped, if you get an XRT Limited or Calligraphy Santa Fe on this menu right here. Now going down to drive mode, we have our My Drive mode, which is a newer thing for Hyundai and some of their regular vehicles. It's been around in the N brand for quite a while. It will allow you to customize the My Drive mode in the drive mode selection for powertrain as well as steering. You can have sport or normal steering, and then normal, sport, or smart drive modes for the powertrain configuration. Next up, we have climate. So this will activate some of the HVAC controls. So you can do activate recirc air upon washer fluid use. So hopefully you don't smell as much of the washer fluid inside of the cabin once the windshield wiper washers are used. There's automatic ventilation for dehumidify, and this is a cool new feature on some of their new vehicles is scheduled ventilation will automatically ventilate the cabin at a scheduled time, and ventilation will occur while the vehicle is off. So essentially, it will run the interior cabin fan to prevent moisture, mold, mildew buildup inside of the vents, and you can schedule that at any time you want during the day by turning that on right there, hitting that little icon, and you can see once a day, I assume at that given time, it will go ahead and ventilate the cabin again to prevent mold and moisture buildup. There's the automatic defog inside the climate to prevent the windshield from fogging up. So it uses a sensor on the glass to determine if there's humidity inside the cabin. And then there is the air conditioner dry, which I just mentioned is similar to the other feature. It will automatically run the fan after the vehicle has been turned off to dry the inside of the air conditioner and prevent mold growth. So again, similar to automatic ventilation, but slightly different features in that regard, but used for very similar things. So very nice HVAC climate settings in here. Going down to your lights tab, we have one-touch turn signal, so you can turn it off, 3, 5, or 7 flashes. I actually usually prefer 5 flashes for the one-touch turn signal. There you can see the little car icon is flashing over there. We have our welcome lights for the exterior lighting of the vehicle. So upon sensing the proximity key, it will go ahead and turn on the welcome lights. We have headlight delay for 15 seconds after the vehicle is turned off. High beam assist, which essentially uses the automatic high beams. This can be turned on and off via that setting right there. And then we have interior lights always on, illuminates the interior buttons and switches at all times in the cabin of the vehicle when the headlights are turned on. That's actually a newer setting that Hyundai has not had before, but if you don't prefer all the interior buttons to be illuminated or backlit, you can turn that setting off right there. Going down to door, we have automatic vehicle lock. Unfortunately, Hyundai does not have walk-away proximity lock on their vehicle, so this is only enabled on speed or enabled on the current gear selection. We have automatic unlock, so at vehicle off, shift to park or off. Typically, I prefer when the vehicle is put in park, it will automatically unlock the vehicle. We have two press unlock, unlocks all doors when the unlock button is pressed twice. There's the power liftgate, can be turned on and off, as well as the power liftgate speed can be determined between two different speed settings. And then finally, we have the power liftgate opening height. It allows you to select 3 different preset heights for the liftgate to open. And then you can also select a manual height, which you can program at the back of the vehicle by simply manually selecting the height of the tailgate, holding the power liftgate button on the hatch for about 3 seconds, and that will program the user height of the tailgate itself. So very cool features. Again, Hyundai has not had many of these customization options for in this much depth for quite some time. So great to see that. Going down to digital keys, we have the NFC key card, which can be programmed on the digital keypad in the center console, and that will give you your digital key serial number below that. Convenience, we have the rear occupant alert. This vehicle is equipped with ultrasonic rear occupant alert. Can be turned on and off right there. I do have a dedicated video here on the channel going over that. There's your service interval for the days or the distance until your next oil change. There's your oil change reminder, which you can reset manually here on the infotainment if you wish. There's the wireless charging for mobile devices. Then this is another cool, small, kind of gimmicky feature, if you will. When a wireless device is placed on the wireless charger, you can select between 2 different types of illumination for the wireless charging pad. Type 1 is essentially the old school traditional way of amber LED lights, and type 2 is essentially the little animation there that it shows on the side of the screen. Until the battery is full, it will essentially just give you a little dynamic moving animation there. And that is pretty much all the vehicle settings you have inside of the cabin. Now moving over into sound settings, similarly, all of these items will populate here on the left-hand side of the screen, so you don't have to go around and change the menu item. So under premium sound, this is the speed-dependent volume control. Basically automatically adjust the audio volume based on the vehicle speed that you're currently traveling, and then also will allow you to select a maximum startup value inside the vehicle. So if you have the radio really loud, when you shut it off, it will lower the volume upon starting the vehicle the next time, and that is a very nice setting that I prefer to have enabled inside of my vehicles. We have your position inside the cabin, so of course you want to center it, but this is your fader as well as your balance on this screen. Going down, we have tone, treble, mid-range, bass, and you can go ahead and center that back to factory defaults if you do go ahead and alter that. Guidance, this is your welcome sound when the cluster turns on or off inside the cabin. Really not a big deal as that goes. And then this is your guidance volume as far as the touchscreen beep, which I prefer to have off. And then there is your ringtone inside the vehicle when you do receive an incoming call. Radio noise essentially allows you to control the noise for the FM radio inside the cabin. Now you can go ahead and read those definitions right there, but it allows you, when listening to FM radio, full signal sound without reducing the background noise. Minimum essentially reduces some background noise, and maximum reduces much of the background noise of the FM radio signal. Driver assistance, here is the warning volumes for the alert sounds from the driver assistance, forward collision avoidance, stuff like that. Haptic feedback for the steering wheel is a newer feature in this vehicle. We have lane safety for the audible warning. There's your driving safety priority as well as your parking safety priority. So if it does have some of the parking sensors or stuff, those are the tones you will hear from the vehicle speakers. And then finally, connected devices. We have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which you can adjust the media as well as phone volumes and ringtone and navigation all separately under those, which is great for additional customization. It looks like Apple allows you to go a little bit more in depth for all the volumes versus Android Auto. It just has media and voice guidance. So those are all of the sound settings inside of the infotainment here. Next up, we have connected devices. This is where you'll manage all of your Bluetooth paired devices, your Bluetooth voice prompts. There's your system settings, so you can rename your vehicle's Bluetooth settings. And then there is phone projection, which again allows you to enable or disable Android Auto and Apple CarPlay inside of the actual head units, and then delete or install paired phones inside of the head unit itself. We have screen layout, which essentially allows you to change the graphics mode for the digital gauge cluster. To link between the drive modes, you can change between style A, style B, and style C, which is essentially just the color of the background of the digital cluster. There's your screensaver. You can choose between clock or none. And then split screen allows you to use the right-hand side of the screen to change between different items. Again, this will vary depending on if you have a navigation-equipped vehicle or just have the standard one that we will be looking at here, which allows you only to have a compass and a clock for the split screen functionality on the right side, which is a little bit of a bummer. But again, you will have more functionality on the higher trims. There's your display settings, which I already did detail here. You can use the blue light filter to reduce a little bit of harmness on the eyes, and you can schedule that here between automatically based on ambient conditions using the light sensor inside the vehicle, or set a certain time at which the blue light filter comes on, and you can, adjust the strength of the blue light filter right there at the very bottom. Next up, we have buttons. This customizes the little star button here in the center console as well as on the steering wheel. So they are separate buttons via these two menus right here, and they do have different options for either one. So there is the custom audio button on the main controls for the shortcuts down here above the HVAC controls. Those are the options you can choose from. And then for the steering wheel, here's the options you can choose from. Just a few more different options for rejecting ending a call, hands-free calling device, privacy mode, home, media, quiet mode, driver assistance settings, and none. Below that, we have mode button. This is selected by the dedicated mode on the center console. Next up, we have the mode button, which is actually the mode button on the right side of the steering wheel as well, just above the star button. Allows you to customize between which ones it cycles through when you do press that. So if you only want to cycle through, for example, FM, Sirius XM, and USB, check all three of those boxes, and every time you do press the mode button, it will only cycle between these three in order. There's the plus or minus steering wheel buttons. You could change between your station and channel, or change between station and frequency. And that is it as far as those settings go. We have cluster up next. This allows you to change the illumination brightness, the cluster theme, which I did just detail on the other one. We have the auto timer reset. You can choose when the auto stop timer essentially resets for the vehicle. You can link to current trip, since refueling, since last reset, or do not link, and it is manually reset on the digital gauge cluster. There's content selection. Essentially, these two items will populate on the center 4.2-inch display when they are pertinent and when the vehicle displays. So when the wiper or lights display, essentially when you turn the light mode from auto off to on manually, it will toggle a little icon in the middle of the screen to alert you as to which one you currently have selected. And similarly, the wiper will do the same when you use some of the intermittent settings for the wiper. I'll go ahead and overlay that video on the screen there. And then icy road warning essentially will just display a little small alert on the screen after you start up the vehicle and start driving at 39 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. And then finally, we do have the welcome sound at the very bottom. You can toggle on and off, which essentially I already discussed will provide an audible tone when the cluster turns on or off inside the vehicle. Next, we have our BlueLink settings, which is essentially where you activate BlueLink upon your vehicle. That should be done at the dealership for you upon purchase. And there is your current modem information for the vehicle itself. And then finally, we have our general tab, which is the ccNC Lite, which I've already mentioned is the vehicles without built-in navigation. There's your current model number for the vehicle you're in, software version, over-the-air software updates, does require an active BlueLink subscription. And then there is the current firmware version for this vehicle. And at the bottom, you see the little update tab. This is where you'll manually update the system via a USB, which I do have dedicated videos here on the channel doing that. So if you want to know how to update your vehicle. Then we have system info, which will tell you after the system updates are performed, what is new inside the vehicle. I like this, how it keeps track of that for you, so you don't have to question what changed upon the update. Simply go in there. There's your modem information one more time. Here's all of your date and time settings inside the vehicle. Typically, just always leave it to set time automatically, and it will adjust throughout the year for daylight savings and stuff like that. Set your time zone, and then you can, I guess, toggle daylight savings time on and off depending on which time of year it is, and that will just simply add or subtract an hour from the current time up there based on the automatic time that the GPS is picking up on. Under language, we have all the different languages you can choose from. It looks like you have 4 different languages there. Keyboard allows you to change between QWERTY and ABCD, so different layouts of the keyboard on the touchscreen itself. But yeah, that is pretty much it as far as all of the main settings here on the 12.3-inch display audio touchscreen here in the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. Now quickly, I do want to touch on the controls here around the HVAC because this is a new technology inside of some newer Hyundai vehicles. So some of these shortcuts for the infotainment system, including that star button over here, these setup tabs are all digital icons you can access on the screen itself or quick shortcuts down here. So for example, you want to pull up your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you can simply hit the map button, and when an Android Auto or Apple CarPlay device is connected, it will automatically pull up the Google Maps or other map service that you're currently streaming on that. But anyways, as far as the HVAC controls, like I mentioned, this is the dual zone automatic with the touch type controls in the center via the small strip right here. These are your heated seats. You can turn those on and off by touching the screen right there. You can hit the off to turn the entire HVAC system off. It does have a little cool animation. I don't know if you saw that. Nice small touch of Hyundai to do that. And then to turn it back on, simply hit the dial on the left-hand side. There you can change between the front and rear HVAC climate. So you only have access to fan speed controls here at the front of the vehicle or to turn the climate off here in the rear. So simply press rear. You can turn up the fan speed in the back of the vehicle for third row occupants or turn it off and then switch right back to the front mode right there. And it gives you all of your main controls for the defrosters, where the air is flowing for the floor, the top vents, or of course the windshield, and you can change the fan speed right there. And then there are 3 different auto settings that limit the maximum fan speed inside the vehicle based on which of the 3 auto settings you currently have programmed here on the interior. So I think that's pretty much going to do it here for this infotainment technology tour here in the all-new 2024 Santa Fe. That was a lot of talking. Hopefully all of it made sense, but if not, leave a comment down in the comment section. I will do my best to answer them. And of course, I highly recommend you check out some of the other videos I have here on the channel where I go through more of the details or aspects about the vehicle currently, including this SEL that I'm currently sitting in. I do have a full walk around tour on this exact vehicle here in a separate dedicated video. So once again, if you guys have any further questions about this, feel free to leave a comment. I will do my best to answer them. If you guys enjoyed it and or found it helpful, make sure to hit that like button below. It greatly helps out the channel, these videos. Subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to stay tuned for additional content coming here on the all-new 2024 Santa Fe. some of the higher trim levels, maybe my driving impressions, likes and dislikes, stuff like that over the next couple months. Now let me know what you guys think of the technology here inside of these new Hyundai vehicles. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Is it better or worse than the previous generation? And just let me know your general thoughts. I'd really appreciate that. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching these videos and hope to see you guys in the next one.